Welcome. This is a video on the Revolt of 1857, Part 2. This is brought to you by upscquestions.com. This is presented by Aditya Krishna. You can reach me at agk.upscquestions at gmail.com. Rumors of mixing of bone dust in atta led to widespread discontent and fury amongst the Brahmin Hindu sepoys who constituted a majority of the sepoys in the service of the British. As explained before, religious considerations trumped all others. Discontent among zamindars, jagirdars, and others was mainly due to the centralization of power that had taken place to such a great degree. The zamindars and jagirdars were now feeling totally discontent and were rendered mere collectors of revenue, and they had to entirely pass on the revenue to the British, leaving them little to maintain their own lavish lifestyle. This is a major reason why the sepoys found such great support from the zamindars and other landlords across the country who were the traditional leaders of the Indian society. Heavy taxation of the farmers. The new land revenue system introduced after the annexation and the confiscation of lands attached to charitable institutions attached the well-being of the farmer. However, what was a great contributing factor was the tax increase in Awadh hit the sepoys the hardest because a great number of soldiers came from rural Awadh, and any issue that stressed the farmer of Awadh stressed the sepoy. Under the burden of excessive taxes, the peasantry became progressively indebted and impoverished. The only interest of the company was the realization of maximum revenue. The revenue imposed was so great that the peasant could not afford to pay his taxes. Revenue was often collected by coercion and torture. Records show that over 237,000 coercive collections were made during 1848 to 1856 in a single district. 237,000. Whatever the adverse conditions, remissions were never granted. Talukdars found all their property confiscated and were without a source of income, unable to work and condemned to penury. Artisans and handicraftsmen suffered the most due to the annexation of lands of Talukdars who were their main patrons. To add a blow to the already fallen, the British policy promoted imported British goods and discouraged Indian handicrafts. Hence, imposition of very high tax revenues was a great contributor to the dissatisfaction of the sepoy and the common man with the British administration. The sepoy was in fact a peasant in the uniform, whose consciousness was not divorced from the rural population. A sepoy in the infantry got ₹7 a month, and a savar in the cavalry ₹27, out of which he had to pay for the upkeep of his mount, food, uniform, etc. He was ultimately left with a rupee or two. The sense of deprivation struck a chord every time he was compared to his British counterpart. A British observer, summing up everything, wrote, "Though he might show the signs of military genius of Hyder, he knew that he could never attain the pay of an English subaltern, and that the rank to which he might rise after 30 years of faithful service would not protect him from the insolent dictation of an ensign fresh from England." Within a month of capture of Delhi, the revolt spread to different parts of the country. Some of the important centers were Kanpur, Lucknow, Banaras, Jhansi, Jagdishpur, Allahabad, and Bareilly. At Kanpur, Nana Sahib, the adopted son of Peshwa Bajirao II, was the natural choice. He had refused the family title and was banished from Pune, and he was now living in Kanpur. At Lucknow, Begum Hazrat Mahal took over the reins, where popular sympathy was overwhelmingly in favor of the Nawab. Her son Birjes Kader was now proclaimed the Nawab. A regular administration was organized, with the important office being equally shared by the Hindus and the Muslims. At Bareilly, Khan Bahadur, a descendant of the former ruler of Rohilkhand, was placed in command. He was living on a pension meted out by the British and in fact informed the British of the arrival of the sepoys. Yet, once the revolt broke out, he assumed command, organized an army of 40,000 soldiers and offered stiff resistance to the British. In Jagdishpur, Bihar, the revolt was led by Kanwar Singh, a 70-year-old zamindar on the verge of bankruptcy, and someone who nursed a grudge against the British readily took up the opportunity to fight the British. Yet the most outstanding leader of the revolt was the legendary Rani Lakshmi Bai of Jhansi, a woman who fought with bravery that had no parallel on the day of the battle. Dalhousie, the Governor General, had refused to allow her adopted son to succeed the throne after the king had died. He annexed the state by the application of the doctrine of lapse. The Rani had tried everything to reverse the decision. It is also said that she even offered to keep Jhansi safe for the British, although there is some dispute in this regard. Paintings depicting Lakshmi Bai in battle with the sun tied to her and across her chest with a rearing horse are scenes that are etched in the collective memory of the nation. Lakshmi Bai continues to be an inspiration. Yet, in spite of these local leaders, what the revolt necessarily missed was the emergence of one single leader of ability who could unite them all and harness their combined power. Had one leader of ability risen at this crucial juncture of Indian history, India would have been an independent nation 90 years before it managed to become one. The absence of centralized coordination resulted in the heroic efforts being rendered random. The result was that all of these revolts were quelled, and most of the times with ease. Another reason that the revolt did not do as well as it should have was that it lacked support from the upper Indian society. Merchants, intelligentsia, and the Indian rulers not only kept aloof of the revolt but also actively supported the British. The revolt of 1857 was not a purely historical tragedy. Even in failure, it served a grand purpose, a source of inspiration for the national liberation movement, which later achieved what the revolt of 1857 hoped to. This is the end of the revolt of 1857. Thank you.